Hey kids, today we are going to learn about assembly drawings and putting our first part together. If you remember in our first video, we made our bottle bottom. In our next video, we made a cap and we want these two parts to go together. And that is accomplished by something called an assembly drawing. You can find that under File, New. This is one of our selections. So you can see I can do English or metric. We've been working in metric, so let's keep our assembly in metric. And we have a standard assembly. And all this is going to do is going to allow us to combine our drawings, because we don't draw a cap, a bottle all in the same drawing, because those things change. And more importantly, they're separate parts, and we always just keep parts separate. How we put them together, we're just going to go ahead and hit create. And you'll notice our model area looks similar, our tree is different, and our ribbon up here is different. As we go through, we're going to learn about all these things through here, but we are just starting out. This is our first assembly drawing. Though it is different, it is familiar. We still have our tree over here. It just lists a little different of things. And now we have place instead of sketch. And place is really the command we're going to use the most. You can also create parts in here, though I always try to teach you to shy away from that. Make a separate drawing. We're going to go to place. It's going to bring up my files. I have my bottle bottom, and that's the first thing I want to bring in. When I do this, I always want to make sure all my components are kind of aligned. That means everything is either on the front and top view as they should. As you see, this is my front view, so that is a good placement here. If I right click, I can rotate it if I would like. And more importantly, what we want to do is we want to ground this. In my experience, and I've had this debate many a times, I always believe you should ground at least one object in your assembly. Things get really wacky when stuff isn't grounded. Can you get away without it? Absolutely, but it's a good practice to get into grounding something. For me, it's going to be this bottle, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. Once I'm ready to place, I can just hit OK. Once that happens, we go to a isometric view here, and we're just going to hit escape once to get rid of that other one. Here is our part, our bottle right here. You can see it looks a little better rendered here in the assembly part. It's supposed to be rendered better in the assembly. This is just one part. We still have to add one other part. That's going to be our bottle cap. Again, we want to make sure that these are oriented in the same direction. Up is up for both of them, and in this one, it is. I'm just going to go ahead and click and place it right there. I have my two parts in here. You can see they're both on the same planes. I can move both of them. This is where the grounding is really helpful. I'm going to right click on this, and you can see we have a grounded button. So I'm going to ground that. Now this won't move. This part can move, this cannot. That's really helpful for me because when I start assembling, I don't have to worry about the constraints or joining get messed up because I am changing or moving an object. How do we get these two together? Because really it's kind of hard to drag a cap on here. Well, the two buttons we're going to get used to in this class is join and constrain. Today, we are going to talk about constrain. If you're curious about the difference between the two, how I always explain it, joint is like gluing objects together. That means they are permanently stuck. Constraints are more about relationships. So you can do rotational and movement. You'll see the difference as we do a bunch of projects, especially the next one coming up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit constraint. And I can do it a couple different ways. Now there is a bunch of options here, and it's overwhelming. Really right now you're going to worry about just the solution. Solution really gives you a different option whether it is flush or not, and you'll see we'll probably use it here. You have to do two selections. So as I said, constraints a relationship. I can create a relationship between this axis and this axis right here. You see how it went upside down? I can flip it on my solutions. Do not worry that it's down here. We're just going to hit apply. I can now drag this up. The relationship here is now to the vertical axis, so it can't move off of it. And the good part is I can't move my bottom part, so that isn't going to mess up the axes. But that's not how a bottle looks. And if you remember, we made these lips right here so it could pop onto it. We can also use those as a constraint. I'll go back here. Just another helpful hint, only do one constraint at a time, apply, exit out, start a new one. It'll make your life much simpler. My first constraint here, I'm going to do my bottle bottom part here, so this is the bottom lip of it. And what I want it to go to is this bottom lip here. So when I click, it should pop down. I hit apply, exit out. You can see my cap is now on my bottle. The best part of this though is because of how constraints work, since I only constrained it to a plane or height and an axis, this can spin like a real bottle top. And we're going to see down the road how this movement can become really powerful, like a Stirling engine or a trailer hitch. And we're going to do those projects as we move through the class. One last thing here, kids. If you're having an issue with one of your constraints, you can find them over here in your parts tree. Under parts bottom, you have the two mates, the axis and the lid. Same thing with the bottle cap, axis, and the lid. If I ever want to edit this, I can go over here and it'll bring the box back up. Or if the mate isn't working, you can simply delete it from here. That's our drawing. It's assembled. This is a part. If we wanted to manufacture this and start our own company, we could send this off to a manufacturer. And because we attach material, they can actually build this part. Pretty neat if you ask me, kids. While the bottle does look simple, we can take all of the different stuff we learned and really create a neat water bottle. And the next project is you going to create your own designed water bottle, but we'll talk about that a little later. For right now, make sure you save your assembly, and that's it. That's what I'll be checking off. I can't wait to see the part that you designed. As always, if you have any questions, come see me.